You've probably heard of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. But did you know that the real hidden sins of these two cities are much deeper than we typically think? Join me as we explore the lesser-known sins that led to God's intense anger, resulting in the harshest punishment in history. Stay tuned, because as we uncover the stunning truths behind Sodom and Gomorrah, you'll realize that the lessons from thousands of years ago are still just as relevant today. Let's start our journey. Remember to like this video if you find it insightful. You know, YouTube's algorithm prioritizes videos with more likes, so help me reach more people by liking this video. I truly appreciate your support. Our story begins with Abraham, regarded as the patriarch of many nations, a key figure in both the Bible and religious history. He was chosen by God, promised a great descendant, and the land of promise, even though he was advanced in age and childless. With his unwavering faith and reverence for God, Abraham became a symbol of absolute loyalty and obedience. One day, as Abraham stood quietly in front of his tent in the intense heat of the day, he noticed three strangers approaching from afar. Without hesitation, he ran to greet them, leaving his house to offer hospitality. He bowed respectfully and said, "If you wouldn't mind, may I offer you some hospitality before you continue your journey? Let me bring water to wash your feet and rest under the shade. I will also provide bread to sustain you." The guests accepted his invitation with gratitude, and Abraham quickly instructed his servants to prepare what was needed. He rushed into the house and asked Sarah, his wife, to prepare 3 portions of the finest meal from the best flour. Without hesitation, Abraham himself kneaded the dough and baked the bread. Afterward, he ran to the herd, selected a healthy calf, and entrusted it to a servant for preparation. He also brought fresh curds and prepared meat, serving everything to the guests under the shade of the tree. Throughout this time, Abraham stayed close to make sure they were well taken care of. Soon, the focus of the guests shifted to Sarah, Abraham's wife. When asked, Abraham said that she was in the tent. One of them made a startling prophecy: "I will surely return to you this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." Sarah, overhearing from behind the tent door, couldn't help but laugh to herself. At this point, both Abraham and Sarah were very old, and Sarah had long passed the age of childbearing. The prophecy made her doubt, wondering if such a miracle could really happen when the joy of motherhood seemed so far out of reach. God said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and question her ability to have a child at her age? Is anything too difficult for me, your God? At the appointed time next year I will return, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah, startled and afraid, denied laughing, but God replied, "No, you did laugh." The visitors rose and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham accompanied them to see them off. God pondered whether to reveal his plans to Abraham. He reflected on Abraham's destiny to become the father of a great nation, and how all nations would be blessed through him. God also considered Abraham's responsibility to teach his household to follow his ways, living in righteousness and justice, so that his promises to Abraham could be fulfilled. God revealed that the cries of Sodom and Gomorrah's wickedness had reached a breaking point, and their sins were extremely grave. He decided to investigate personally to determine whether the actions of the people were as wicked as the cries that had reached him. If not, he would know. The 2 men then left for Sodom, while Abraham remained with the Lord. Abraham approached and asked, "Will you really destroy the righteous along with the wicked? If 50 righteous people are found in the city, will you spare it? Surely you wouldn't treat the righteous and the wicked alike. Will not the judge of all the earth act justly?" God answered, "If I find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I will spare the entire city for their sake." Abraham humbly said, I am but dust and ashes, yet I dare speak to you, Lord. What if there are only 45 righteous people? Will you destroy the whole city for the lack of 5? God responded, If I find 45 there, I will not destroy it. Abraham asked again, What if there are only 40? God said, For the sake of 40, I will not destroy it. With reverence, Abraham continued, What if only 30 are found? God replied, I will not destroy the city if 30 righteous people are found. Abraham persisted, Let me ask again, Lord. What if only 20 are found? God said, For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Finally, Abraham asked, What if only 10 are found? God answered, For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. When the discussion ended, God left, and Abraham returned to his place. Abraham's prayer for Sodom reveals his deep compassion for its people and his trust in God's mercy. This story centers on the question of justice. While God holds absolute power, the narrative prompts us to consider whether his actions are just. God's responses to Abraham's intercession reveal the answer to this question. God had 2 reasons for sharing his plans. First, since all nations would be blessed through Abraham, he informed him of Sodom's destruction before fulfilling his promises. Second, Abraham's responsibility to teach his descendants about righteousness required that he understand God's justice. If Sodom's wickedness had reached its peak, God's judgment would be unavoidable. Abraham believed there were still righteous people in Sodom, and he prayed according to God's justice. His prayer demonstrates the greatness of his character. He not only asked for the righteous to be spared, but also prayed for the wicked, hoping that their forgiveness could be granted due to the presence of the righteous. Earlier, he had rescued the people of Sodom in a war. Now he prayed for them with the same bravery, persistence, and compassion that he had shown when fighting for them. While some might be taken aback by how Abraham bargained with God, his prayer was always expressed with humility and deep respect. Abraham did not try to persuade God to change his plan, but instead he asked for justice and mercy for Sodom, proposing conditions of 50, 45, 40, 30, 20, and even just 10 righteous people. In contrast, Lot's plea for Zoar was entirely different. This serves to emphasize the theme of divine justice and blessings, underscoring the importance of fairness and mercy in the narrative. These lessons were not just for Israel, but deeply moved Abraham, shaping them into a compassionate prayer. In Genesis 19, we encounter a pivotal moment. As evening approached, 2 angels arrived in Sodom and saw Lot sitting at the city gate. When he saw them, he immediately rose to greet them, bowing with respect, and invited them, Please come to my home, stay the night, wash your feet, and in the morning you can continue your journey. The angels initially declined, stating that they would stay in the square, but Lot persisted, urging them to come inside. They agreed and entered his house, where Lot prepared a feast of wine and unleavened bread. They ate together before resting. The citizens of Sodom, both young and old, gathered around Lot's house and demanded he hand over the guests so they could know them in an intimate manner. Lot stepped out to meet them, closing the door behind him to protect his guests. Lot even offered his 2 virgin daughters to the mob in exchange for his guests, pleading with them not to commit such a detestable crime. This disturbing moment not only revealed the depth of Sodom's depravity, but also highlighted the cultural importance of hospitality and the responsibility to protect guests. It also showed Lot's desperate attempt to preserve these values despite the imminent danger. The angels, however, immediately pulled Lot inside and shut the door. They struck the mob outside with blindness, from the young to the old, causing them to stagger around, exhausted in their search for the door. The angels asked Lot if he had any other family in Sodom, such as sons, daughters, or anyone else. and instructed him to take them out of the city. They explained that God had sent them to destroy Sodom because the cries of the city's wickedness had reached heaven and could no longer be ignored. Lot hurried to his future sons-in-law, who were engaged to his daughters, and warned them, "Quickly, leave this place because the Lord is about to destroy the city." However, they thought he was joking and ignored his warning. As dawn broke, the angels urged Lot, "Hurry, take your wife and 2 daughters and leave, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." But Lot hesitated. And in God's mercy, because of Abraham, the angels took his hand, along with the hands of his wife and daughters, and led them out of the city before its destruction. Once they were outside, one of the angels commanded, "Flee for your lives! Do not look back and do not stop anywhere in the valley. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away." This moment highlighted both the urgency of the situation in Sodom and God's great mercy in sparing Lot and his family, giving them a chance to escape. But Lot pleaded with the angel, "Oh no, my lord! Your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot make it to the mountains. Disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Please let me flee to this small town nearby. It is close enough to reach, and it is small. Let me go there so I can survive." The angel replied, "Very well, I will grant your request. I will not destroy the town you speak of, but hurry, escape to it, because I cannot do anything until you are safe there." That is why the town was called Zoar, meaning small. The angels had to physically pull Lot and his family out of the city, showing his reluctance even as destruction was imminent. The next morning, God saved Lot because of Abraham's prayers. Yet Lot continued to request concessions from the angels, asking to take refuge in the small town of Zoar instead of fleeing to the mountains. This moment serves as a striking reminder for Israel of Lot's hesitation and how the angels had to intervene to bring him to safety. It raises the question, why do some of God's people cling to a sinful world rather than flee from its impending destruction? When Lot reached Zoar, the sun was rising over the horizon. At that moment, God rained down sulfur and fire from heaven upon Sodom and Gomorrah. He completely destroyed the cities, the valley, all the inhabitants, and the surrounding land. Lot's wife, ignoring the angel's warning, looked back at Sodom and was immediately turned into a pillar of salt. The next morning, Abraham went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked toward Sodom, Gomorrah, and the region of the Dead Sea Valley and saw smoke rising from the land like smoke from a furnace. When God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham and rescued Lot, Abraham's nephew, from the disaster that overtook the cities where Lot had lived. In this destruction, God consumed the cities and surrounding lands with burning sulfur. Some believe sulfur erupted from the earth and rained down from the sky in fiery flames. Lot's wife, who was tempted to look back, turned into a pillar of salt, symbolizing disobedience. The sulfuric fire created the thick smoke Abraham witnessed from a distance. Despite God's judgment on the wicked, he remembered Abraham and saved Lot, fulfilling Abraham's plea. After staying in Zoar for some time, Lot grew fearful and decided to leave the city. He took his 2 daughters to live in a cave in the mountains. One day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man left for us to marry in the usual way. Let's make him drunk, and we will lie with him to preserve our family line." That night they made their father drunk, and the older daughter lay with him. Lot, being drunk, did not know when she lay down or when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "I lay with our father last night. Let's make him drunk again tonight, and you will lie with him to preserve our family line." They did as planned the following night. After making their father drunk again, the younger daughter lay with him, and once again, He was unaware of when she lay down or when she got up. In this way, both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter gave birth to a son named Moab, meaning from father, who became the ancestor of the Moabites. The younger daughter also had a son, naming him Ben-Ami, meaning son of my kin, the ancestor of the Ammonites. This story recounts what occurred in the mountain cave where Lot and his daughters took refuge. Initially, Lot was afraid to go to the mountains and sought refuge in Zoar. But ironically, he had to leave Zoar and live in a cave, which starkly contrasted with the advanced civilization of Sodom where he had lived. Believing there was little hope of remarriage, the two daughters, whose fiancés had died, made their father drunk and lay with him. This incestuous act highlights the corrupting influence of Sodom on them. The result was the birth of Moab and Ben-Ami, ancestors of two nations that would later become enemies of Israel. The names Moab, meaning from father, and Ben-Ami, meaning son of my kin, are lasting reminders of the disgraceful origins of these adversaries of Israel. This story not only records God's judgment on a decaying Canaanite civilization, but also serves as a stern warning. Lot's story illustrates the complexity of human nature and the challenges of living in a society that lacks moral values. Lot is portrayed as a righteous, hospitable, and generous man, even a leader in Sodom, but his life in that city highlights the struggle to maintain moral integrity in a morally decaying environment. Lot is described as a righteous, hospitable, and generous man who even held a leadership position in Sodom. However, his life there highlights the challenge of maintaining personal integrity in a deeply corrupt society. In Genesis 13:10-11, Lot chose the fertile Jordan Valley, captivated by its beauty and abundance, before Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction. This decision marked the beginning of his deeper entanglement with Sodom, demonstrating how its values gradually overtook his life. The arrival of the angels exposed the contradictions in Lot's life. While he appeared outwardly moral, his words were disregarded by those around him. Despite recognizing the immense wickedness around him, Lot, in a moment of irony, offered his daughters to the men of Sodom to protect his guests. This act revealed the conflict between his beliefs and the choices he made under pressure. Lot's story is a cautionary tale about complacency and hypocrisy, highlighting the importance of standing firm in one's values, even amid temptation. Though God spared Lot through his grace, Lot's heart remained tethered to Sodom. His wife's inability to let go led her to look back, resulting in her transformation into a pillar of salt. Lot's daughters, influenced by Sodom's depraved culture, later committed incest with their father after intoxicating him. Despite his efforts to uphold his faith, Lot chose to stay in Sodom, and ultimately, he could not have both. If God had not destroyed Sodom, Sodom would have destroyed Lot. This narrative focuses on 4 key themes: God's swift judgment of the Canaanites, Lot's attachment to a sinful society, God's merciful rescue of Lot, and the recurrence of sin in the cave. Israel is reminded that God's judgment is just, and that it is foolish to be drawn to the sins of the Canaanites. Understanding that God judged the Canaanites, it becomes imperative to live righteously. The lesson is simple. Do not love the world or the things of the world, for the world and its desires are passing away. 1 John 2:15-17. Under God's judgment, clinging to a sinful world is perilous, as it will be destroyed suddenly. When teaching about coming judgment, Jesus referenced Lot's wife and Sodom's destruction. Remember Lot's wife, he said. Whoever seeks to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life will preserve it. Luke 17:32 to 33. Those who pursue the best of this world risk losing everything, as both the world and eternal life will be lost. Luke 17:33 to 37. Jesus also remarked that if the miracles he performed in Capernaum had been performed in Sodom, its people would have repented long ago. Matthew 11:23. This highlights that God's judgment considers one's understanding, and that physical destruction is not the worst punishment for sin. Looking back at the story of Lot and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, we are reminded of the strength of faith and the need to stand firm against the temptations of the world. God judged the wicked, yet He always provides a way of salvation for those who repent and return to Him. Let this story be a powerful reminder to live according to God's values, resist the pull of the world, and keep our faith strong in every aspect of life. If this message has inspired you, please don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends and family. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below to let us know what stood out to you most in Lot's story and how we can live a righteous life in a world full of temptation. Thanks be to God for His teachings that lead us through life's challenges. We look forward to seeing you in the next video as we continue to dive deeper into the valuable lessons found in the Bible. May God bless you and your family.